Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Musoff, and today we're going to talk about our fourth and final polynomial operation, and that is division. So by the end of this, we should be able to divide polynomials using synthetic division. Okay, so what is synthetic division? Well, there are actually two kinds of division that you can do with polynomials. There's long division, which is the harder way, and then synthetic division, which is a slightly easier method. So we're going to learn that slightly easier method. Now, synthetic, as a word, like not in math, it means fake, which is not exactly what we're doing. We're not fake dividing, but it does kind of give you a hint that we're not going to completely divide these two things the way they look. We're going to kind of use a shortcut that's going to allow us to get the answer still. Okay, so let's try a couple examples so that we can understand how synthetic division works. It can be a little confusing the first time, so just follow along for these first several examples. Alright, so I'm doing 2x squared plus 13x minus 7 divided by x plus 6. Now, what we're going to do is we don't like having variables when we're doing the division. It makes it harder. So what we do is we take the coefficients from the first polynomial and we bring them down without the variables. So 2, positive 13, and then the negative 7. Okay, and these are going to be kind of the starting point for where we're dividing. However, in order to divide, you do need to have something to divide by, and that's where this piece is going to come in. Okay, so to understand what we're dividing by, we're going to take the part that you're dividing by, x plus 6, and you're going to set it equal to 0 and solve. And whatever number you get once you solve for x, that's the number you're dividing by. So subtract 6, 0 minus 6 is negative 6, so this is the number that I'm going to divide by. Alright, so we're going to set up is kind of this box looking thing. We're going to put the number we're dividing by on the other side, and then we're going to start our process. Okay, so in order to do synthetic division, the first number is going to come down below this line, and below the line is where our answers are going to be, or at least part of our answers. Alright, so our first answer is going to be this 2 here. Then to get our next pieces, you're going to take this number below the line, and you're going to multiply it with the piece outside, the number you're dividing by. Alright, so I know it's tricky because we're dividing by it, but then we're multiplying. Well, just keep track of where we multiply, and hopefully that'll help keep things simple. Okay, so I'm going to take the 2, I'm going to multiply it to the negative 6, that's negative 12, and then I'm going to put that number right below the next number in my box. Okay, and then from here, normally when we have numbers on top of each other, do you remember what operation we do? Well, normally we add. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We'll do 13 plus negative 12. That's positive 1. And there's the second number in our answer. Okay, and then we'll repeat the process. We'll take this number and we'll multiply it by the number outside. 1 times negative 6. That's negative 6, and I'm going to put it underneath the next number. And then once again, since these are on top of each other, we're going to add those. So negative 7 plus negative 6, that is negative 13. And that's it. That's the last number that's going to be part of our answer. All right, and I can tell that because there are no numbers left over here to put, to add with. Okay, so 2, 1, and negative 13, those are going to be parts of our answers. But this last number that we get is always going to be the remainder. Because when we divide, it doesn't always divide nicely. So the last number you get, that'll tell you how much is left over when you divide. Sometimes you'll get 0, and then you know it's perfectly divisible. But if you don't get 0, that's your remainder. Okay, now we still have to write our final answer. So my numbers here are 2, 1, and negative 13. What we do in order to write our final answer, because we need x back in there, we need variables. So see how this was an x squared, and I'm dividing by an x. Well, normally when we do x squared divided by x, there's only one x left. So basically what you're going to see is whatever this degree is, whatever the exponent is, you're going to go one lower than that in our answer. So in our answer, we're going to put an x to the first here. And then this is a positive 1, and there's no number because x to the 0 means, no variable. And then this last piece, we're going to call it our remainder, and that's the remainder is negative 13. So our final answer will just be 2x plus 1 with a remainder of negative 13. Alright, sometimes you'll see the remainder written differently. So just in case that comes up, it could be written as the number divided by whatever you're dividing by. So x plus 6 Right? That's another way to write the remainder. So, depending on which one your teacher prefers, that's how you'll write it. Alright, let's try another one. So, letter B. Okay, so I'm going to start it the same way. I'm going to take my coefficients, and I'm going to bring them down in order to use. Alright, now there's something a little different about this one that maybe you notice. Remember, when there's no coefficient, you just bring down a 1. But here, notice how it starts with y to the 4th, and then it skips to y squared. When I say skips, that means it's skipping the y to the 3rd term. When you see that it skips one of those terms like that, you have to put it in as a 0 y to the 3rd, and we need that coefficient to be part of our list. Right? We can't just skip coefficients. Every single one in the correct order has to be in there. So if you notice that it's skipping one, put in a placeholder, we call it, put in a placeholder of 0. Alright, and then I'll bring the rest down. So 2, this is a -1, and then a 5. Okay, and I'll create my box. Now remember, to figure out what goes on the outside, you're going to take this and set it equal to 0. So y plus 1 equals 0, and I'm going to solve. And I'm going to put that on the outside. And now I start dividing. Now remember, the hardest part, I think, is a lot of people forget what to do first. So the very first thing we're always going to do with synthetic division is bring that first number down. Whatever that first number is, that's our first answer. Okay, then we are going to multiply with this number. So 1 times -1 is -1. And I'm going to put it right below the next number. And then we'll add. So 0 plus -1, that is -1. And I'll repeat. -1 times -1, remember a negative times a negative is a positive. And then again I'll add. So 2 plus 1, that's 3. Repeat. 3 times -1, that is -3. And then I will add. So -1 plus -3 is -4. And then one more time, -4 times -1, that's +4. And then I will add 5 plus 4, that's going to give me 9. And again, remember that last number you get, that is your remainder. Okay, so to write my answer, I'm going to use these numbers, 1, -1, 3, -4, with a remainder of 9. And now I just have to figure out my variables. Remember what I mentioned last time. Take a look at the leading exponent. Alright, y to the 4th. I'm dividing, so I'm going to go one smaller than that, which would be y to the 3rd. So the first term here is going to be a y to the 3rd. Then we go down to y squared, then just y, and then no y. So my final answer here is 1 y to the 3rd minus 1 y squared plus 3y minus 4, and my remainder is +9. And there's my answer. Alright, let's just double check. We'll try a couple more to be sure. Okay, once again, the very first thing when I notice that it is division, that's what we're looking for, that division sign. That's what tells you to do this process, this synthetic division process. So I'm going to take my coefficients, 1, -3, -7, and 6. Now don't forget to always check in case there's something missing. This was x to the 3rd, then x squared, then x, then a number. So I know there's no missing terms, so I don't have to put that 0 in. But pay attention to that. It's something everybody always forgets, and we don't want you to. Okay, I'm going to take this part here, set it equal to 0, and solve. X minus 4 equals 0. Add 4, add 4. So x is going to equal +4. And I'm going to put that on the outside. And then we can start our process. So remember, bring the first number down, multiply it. 1 times 4 is 4, and then add. Again, that number you get, multiply it. 1 times 4 is 4, and then add. And it looks like this is the last one. Bring that over here, multiply it. -3 times 4 is -12. And then add 6 minus 12. Or sorry, 6 plus -12, that's -6. Okay, so that -6, that is our remainder. I'm I'm going to look at the leading coefficient, which was the leading exponent here, x to the third. I'm going to go one lower, so that'll be x squared, x, and then no variable there. So my final answer is 1x squared plus 1x minus 3 with a remainder of negative 6. Alright, one more just to really seal the deal here. Okay, again I'm going to take my coefficients, but right away I notice that this is x to the fourth and this is x squared, which means we're missing an x to the third. So I'm going to add it in here. Okay, and then I'll bring my coefficients down. Remember, if there's no coefficient, there's no number, put a 1 in there, but pay attention to whether it's a negative 1 or a positive 1, because that matters. So this one's a positive 1, and then we have 0. That's a negative 1, a negative 2, and then an 8. Okay, again, I'll take this, set it equal to 0, and solve. Minus 2 minus 2. So x is negative 2. And then I'll start my process. So bring the first number down, multiply it, and then add. Multiply it, and then add. And don't forget, it is okay, completely okay to use your calculator here to help you multiply and add, because we don't want you to make a mistake, because one mistake can really mess up the entire problem. Okay, negative 8, that's 16, add, that's 24. Okay, let's just double check that we did everything right. 6, yep, looks good. So again, I'll look at the exponent in that leading term, x to the fourth, and I'll go one lower. So x to the third, x squared, x, and my number. So my final answer here is 1x to the third minus 2x squared plus 3x minus 8 with a remainder of 24. And that's it for synthetic division. Now again, if any of the steps are confusing, try rewatching it, right, and just follow along with where these numbers are coming from. And hopefully that'll help you understand exactly the process. Alright, thanks for watching. Have a good day.